All right, guys, here we go. Let's get into it. Why loot boxes change gaming forever.
These are the quintessential symbol of corporate greed.
Yes,
During
sir.
this phase in gaming, loot boxes went from nothing major to destroying what made video games fun in the first place. Most people would agree that loot boxes are bad, but I'm sure others either don't care or don't mind them being in games. Though, no matter how you feel about them, one thing is undeniable. Loot boxes changed video games forever. They didn't impact how games looked. They changed how games were designed, monetized, how players engage with them, and even how governments think about digital entertainment.
Yeah, I saw Europe did something about. Europe had like the first W they've had in a while, dude. They were like banning certain loot crates and stuff like that, predatory loot boxes. I said, let's go, dude.
But how did it get this way? The roots of loot boxes go back further than most people realize. In fact, their origin isn't in console or PC gaming. It's in arcades and trading card games.
Huh.
Think of those harmless machines that you'd put a quarter into for a random toy.
It's the OG loot box, dude. Oh shit! I never would have thought. Oh my god! I've been being prepped for loot boxes since I was a wee little kid, dude. This is literally the OG loot box. Is crazy.
Or your sticker, or something like Pokemon card packs. The latter being far from in the past. These things are the foundation of loot box mechanics.
I've been
Fast forward to the late
I've been getting farmed by loot boxes forever, man. These Pokemon cards. That's a loot pack though, not a box.
2000s
Some of our boxes.
and early 2010s, free-to-play games were becoming massively popular, especially in Asia. Titles like MapleStory and Dungeon Fighter Online introduced randomized item systems known as gacha mechanics in Japan. These systems let players spend in-game currency, often bought with real money, to receive a random item from a virtual pool. Western studios took notice. Team Fortress
They saw what they said. They didn't take notice. They took notice of the money.
2, one of Valve's most successful multiplayer games, added loot boxes in 2010. Suddenly, you could earn crates while playing, but needed to buy a $2.50 key to open them. Inside were all sorts of different cosmetics. All were random.
That's wild. I don't think I've ever played a game that gave you the boxes for free, but the keys you have to pay for. That's the next level. That's like giving me freaking, like giving you half the.
Randomized. This was really the turning point. Valve showed that monetizing randomness could work in a premium game, and it could work really well. We'll come back to Valve later, though. Then came Overwatch, Blizzard's 2016 team shooter, which put loot boxes front and center. Players earned boxes by leveling up or buying them.
Overwatch came out in 2016. Well, maybe I'm thinking League of Legends. That's been around for longer than that. I think I get the two mixed up. I never played either one.
Directly. Inside were character skins, voice lines, sprays, and more. The appeal was obvious. The anticipation, the shiny presentation, the legendary orange glow of a rare drop. It made people feel excited even if they just got junk. And, more importantly, it made Blizzard a whole lot of money.
Yes,
what made this
sir.
different from DLC or microtransactions was the lack of transparency. You weren't buying a skin, you were buying a chance at one. And that chance was addictive. If you've been in the gaming world
Hey,
for a while,
Battlefront
you know
2.
isn't it
You guys want my opinion on Battlefront 2?
loot box
You guys want my opinion on Battlefront 3, I mean?
discussion without 2017 Star Wars Battlefront 2, which has gone down as a massive controversy and was really the end of the line for gamers. On the surface, it was everything fans wanted. The same massive battles and iconic heroes of the older games, but in amazing next-gen graphics. But underneath the hood was a loot box system that infected every single part of
Brother, this was the worst loot box I've ever encountered because it was literally like the mechanics to have a better character were inside a loot box.
the game. Key characters like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader were locked behind massive credit walls, requiring 40-plus hours of grinding per hero unless you shelled out money.
It's
What
wild,
really crossed
dude.
the line was that the loot boxes contained star cards. These cards were gameplay-enhancing perks like increased health, faster abilities, or stronger attacks, making the game essentially pay to win. The internet pretty much exploded. The game's Reddit.
I don't want to get into it, but you don't think they're going to try to pull this again for Battlefront 3? You're crazy.
AMA was brutal, and EA's infamous response about players feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment became the most downvoted comment in Reddit's history with over 600,000 downvotes. Especially at this point, everyone hated the game and hated EA. It became so bad that EA had to take a step back and completely overhaul the game and its mechanics.
Only game that's ever been done to. As far as I'm aware, the only time a game has ever taken a step back and just taken out loot boxes, whatever, you know?
To make an actually fun, rewarding system that made you want to play. And might I say, this overhaul was incredible. As I was playing this game for gameplay in this video, I was reminded of how fun the game is at its core. You can find hundreds of videos on here deep diving into the terrible mess that was the loot box.
It's got a lot of replayability. For a multiplayer that is just kind of repetitive, it's got a lot of replayability because there's so many different characters you can play as. You can play as heavy, scout, officer, assault, you know what I mean? So like that kind of helps keep its replayability.
So this game, so with that, I'll move on. Some games had loot boxes so ingrained in the game that it became sort of its own economy. Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Valve's competitive shooter, didn't just implement loot boxes. It turned them into a real-world market. In 2013, Valve introduced weapon cases and key-based loot boxes. These crates held skins, purely cosmetic but highly stylized and often extremely rare. A knife skin, for example, might have a drop rate of less than 0.5%.
Bro, this video is blurry as hell.
On the Steam marketplace. Then came the third-party websites. Suddenly, skins could be gambled. Sites like CSGO Lotto, CSGO Empire, and others let users deposit skins and spin digital wheels, bet on matches, or enter jackpot-style raffles.
That's wild, dude. You set up a starting Battlefront download before I go to sleep. That's wild, dude. You put a whole market around the game for loot boxes. That just like pushes loot boxes even more. You know, you want to be a part of that. You know, hey, I love this game. I love Counter-Strike. Let me be, you know, part of the market. And if you're going to be a part of the market, gotta pay to play.
The winnings, more skins, more value, and more dopamine to the brain. It really did get out of hand, especially when YouTubers began promoting these sites. T. Martin and Syndicate are the first ones that come to my mind personally, and they would advertise third-party websites while not disclosing that they own them. Children.
Dang, that YouTubers, they owned it? They owned the freaking market website? That's awesome, bro.
Began gambling. Real money and skins were no longer cosmetic, but they became a kind of currency. Valve eventually cracked down, but the systems...
I think that's when it becomes gambling. When you have like an idea in your head that you can make real money off this, the real loot, you know, the loot of life, right? You start getting some money munchers in here, dude, and then that's when the gambling really kicks in. Oh man, if I hit a sick lick off this box, I'm gonna be set for a little while, man. I can buy 20, 50 more boxes. I don't know.
Still exists in a legal gray area. Even now, Counter-Strike 2, case openings are a major draw. A whole generation of players learned the language of gambling, odds, rarity, and returns on investment all through gaming. CSGO showed that loot boxes weren't just some design tool, they were an economic system, capable of creating black markets and digital addictions. The disaster with Battlefront 2 sparked actual legislative scrutiny. Loot boxes weren't just a gaming issue anymore, they were a policy issue. Belgium and the Netherlands became the first countries to take action. Their gambling commissions investigated loot boxes and concluded that randomized purchases with real money violated local gambling laws. The result being games like FIFA, Overwatch, and CSGO having to disable loot boxes in those countries or face legal consequences. Other countries, including the UK, Germany, and Australia, began their own investigations.
I think this is fairly new too, right? Like all this government's kind of taking a step towards how predatory they are.
Meanwhile, U.S. politicians introduced bills targeting loot boxes in games marketed to children, calling them predatory and psychologically manipulative.
Yeah, it is, man. That's kind of wild. Loot boxes in games are kind of crazy. Like Battle Pass is fine, but when you start hitting that, because loot boxes hit that little itch, and then you start scratching it where it's like Battle Pass. It's you don't start to feed into that addictive, chance.
Some of the bills didn't pass, but the message was clear. The government was paying attention. Even the ESRB, the video game industry's self-regulating body, felt the pressure. In 2018, it added a new label. In-game purchases includes random items. It wasn't much, but it acknowledged that loot boxes were something different from traditional microtransactions. Publishers responded by shifting tactics. Loot box became taboo. So the terminology changed to packs, drops, or surprise mechanics. But the randomization still existed. It was just trying to be a little more shady. While the governments worked on legal responses, the players also fought back online. The gaming community united around disliking these exploitative practices. Influencers and journalists took the lead, releasing breakdowns of odds, dissecting manipulative systems, and calling out developers. Hashtags trended, different memes about loot boxes would be made, and review bombs were pretty common on storefronts like Steam and Metacritic. People weren't just angry, they were now informed. Different YouTube videos explained how variable ratio reinforcement, a psychological trick used in casinos, was being baked into video games. This also extends out.
Bro, they went full detail on this, man. They said we gotta make this perfect. We can't have a single mess up on these loot boxes, man.
Of just the people playing the games, as I'm sure there were thousands of pissed off parents who had to yell at their kids for taking their credit card to buy loot.
Bro, that's crazy, dude. If I took my parents' card, dude, it'd be just shoveling coal, man. I'd be out there digging up the coal. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be assigned. I wouldn't be assigned to shoveling the coal. I'd be assigned to digging it up. There's no way I'm snatching someone's credit card, man.
Loot boxes for the new Call of Duty gun. This universal awareness from all parties involved forced change. Some developers removed loot boxes entirely, like in Battlefront 2, but others added clear drop rates and odds. New systems like battle passes became heavily prominent with games like Fortnite, and snowballed with every game having one too. Even though game features were still monetized, it was more transparent and less manipulative.
I remember Call of Duty. Call of Duty World War II had loot boxes. Like, just I'm so glad games went away from loot boxes, dude, and we got battle passes. Like, yes, it was still being, you know, of course, everyone's dream is, you know, old style rank up and, you know, unlock your stuff in game, but it's like, it's just not realistic anymore, you know?
It was
You can dream it, but it's very unrealistic to get that.
proof that community action could make a difference and that gamers, when united, could shift the industry. The most lasting impact of loot boxes isn't the controversy. It's how they rewired the design of modern games. Even as the direct use of loot boxes has declined, their philosophy has spread everywhere. Today's games are built around monetization-first thinking. Developers now prioritize long-term engagement, time gating, and monetized progression. The idea isn't to sell you a game, it's to sell you time within that game. Think of the Battle Pass, a system designed to replace loot boxes by offering tiered rewards over a season. It's more...
Yeah, man, they're out here stealing your time and your money for an item. They can hit you with the double whammy now. That's why I don't participate in no battle pass, no loot boxes, no nothing. Game's just not good enough to justify battle pass, man. It has to be a really good game for me to buy a battle pass and have some really good stuff in it.
Transparent, sure, but it's built to exploit FOMO. Miss a season, those skins might never return. The pressure to grind or pay to skip is real. Games now rely on daily login rewards, rotating shops, limited time events, and tiered currencies that confuse players and obscure real-world value. It is all rooted in the same loot box DNA. Keep players chasing the next unlock, spending incrementally, and staying hooked. Even single-player games are feeling the impact. Look at it.
Dude, I don't realize opening card dude, I don't know how the card stuff works in Madden. I don't know if it's for like the ultimate team thing that you have to like open packs for. But it's like, dude, imagine getting a Pokemon game. It's like you can't have the opportunity you can't have the opportunity to catch a Pokemon until you open up a Pokemon pack and unlock it. I don't know how the Madden and all these other games work with these cards. I don't know if that's that must be for a specific game type.
Essentially any sports game. They are sold at full price like other games, but also include packs to pay for that will upgrade your team. The line between player progression and financial investment is completely blurred with systems like this. And perhaps most disturbingly, young players are growing up with these mechanics as the normal. Random rewards, virtual currencies, digital scarcity, these aren't new concepts. They're expected. The next generation may not even realize that there was a time when games didn't monetize this way. So, if we take a look, did we win a fight against loot boxes?
We didn't win the fight. The war just changed.
Yes and no. Us gamers successfully pushed back against the worst. Battlefront 2 proved that backlash matters.
And surprisingly, it's the only game that where backlash made a real difference.
Some laws were passed, some loot boxes were removed, the conversation changed.
Big round of applause. Battlefront 2 community. Let's go, guys. We did it. I was here day 1, too.
And I guess that is something to be proud of. But the industry adapted heavily. The mechanics survived, just disguised. Games now drip feed content over months to keep you subscribed, spending, and logging in daily. In many ways, loot boxes were the trial run that taught publishers how far they could go to make more money, and how to adjust when called out. Essentially, we didn't kill loot boxes, we just taught the industry how to evolve them. Loot boxes changed more than just...
I don't think they evolved loot boxes. Because loot boxes was like, that's like the top of the... And when you talk about scummy behavior, you know, like the parabolas, right? A parabola goes like this, right? Loot boxes are at the tippity top of that thing, dude. So I think we swatted them off and they're, you know, down here now, you know, along the sides. I mean, loot boxes are just kind of wild.
Just monetization. They changed how games were made, how players think, and how developers view their audience. They blurred the lines between fun and finance, and between game and gamble. But they also taught us something powerful. The players have a voice. That pushback works, the transparency matters, and that a more ethical future for gaming isn't just possible, it's worth fighting for. Because at the end of the day, games should inspire us,
yes, sir,
challenge us, and bring us joy. Not drain our wallets with hidden odds and psychological tricks. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please show any kind of support by liking, commenting,
there we go,
or
guys.
subscribing.
The game, bro,
means so much to me and would greatly help the channel. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.
The big one I always hear about is like I guess CS:GO or was it Counter Strike? Same thing. I've never understood the appeal of that game. I know, like, I feel like it's one of those games, right? Hold on, I've never played it, but I feel like it's like the most boiled down sweat game. You know what I mean? Like the most boiled down, simplistic, raw, competitive game, plus a casino. Like kind of wild, when you think about it. But I know they do a lot of tournaments, and I've watched a few, and sometimes they can be kind of fun to watch because it is such a boiled down, like no nonsense kind of game that is kind of like in its own simplistic way, super simplistic way. It's kind of like refreshing to watch a little bit. You know, I mean, it's just kind of, you know, raw skill, which is exactly why I never played it.